Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's Take 30 with a Data Advisor. Nice to have you here. I'm joined today. My name is John Longmire. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of Ironside. I'm joined today by Dave Anderson. I've actually had the pleasure of working with Dave at two different companies, and Dave has over 25 years of experience in managed services. So we're lucky to have him here at Ironside and lucky to have him here with us this morning. One of the things that we have seen pretty consistently is, particularly in customers who are moving from one platform to another, or moving to cloud, or just trying to free up budget, they tend to think about and focus on the end state, but miss some of their levers at their disposal to reduce costs, reduce risk, and free up really their top resources. Managed services is a great way to do all of that, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So our session topics are, we're going to start off by sort of aggregating what we've heard from our customers and sort of bring that message back to you, and hopefully that'll resonate with you. We'll talk about why managed services is of value and what managed services is, just to make sure we're all on the same page. We'll talk about the business benefits and how we measure success in a managed services process. We'll talk specifically about our approach, and then we'll talk to you about 3 different customer journeys and how customers use managed services in a different way to achieve different goals. We'll talk about our key takeaways, and then we'll move on to Q&A. Speaking of Q&A, you have a Q&A, you have a question tab on your panel. Feel free to click into that and ask questions as we go along, and we will address those when we get to the Q&A session. If this were a in-person session, I'd have to tell you where the washrooms and the fire exits are, but fortunately we don't have to do that this morning. So this is something you've probably seen before if you've been to worked with us or have been to one of the other Take 30s. I won't walk you through all of this, but the point is we do a full life cycle of support, all the way from advising all the way through to managing. And today we're really going to focus a little bit on deployment and mostly on the managed portion of what our business is. We've done Take 30s on all of these, and if you look ahead, here's our schedule, weekly schedule of Take 30s. We've got what's new with Cognos 11.2 next week, and we've got best practices in developing an AI use case the week after that. Hopefully you've all signed up for the series. You can do so at the link above or the link that you have in your invite. Also there you will find that we've got all of our past recorded Take 30s, so feel free to peruse those. And if we haven't covered one of the topics you're interested in, or you just prefer to have that as a one-on-one conversation, if you're not aware, you can schedule a one-on-one session with our subject matter experts on many of these topics. So feel free just to grab some time on their calendar, and we'd be happy to answer whatever questions you might have. So in terms of what we've heard, what's really interesting is, regardless of the size of the customer, and we work with everyone from relatively small businesses all the way up to Fortune 100 companies, the goals are the same across all of those customers. And also the goals are pretty much the same regardless of whether the platform they're looking to have managed is growing, they're just trying to maintain it, or they are trying to move away from it. And the first thing that they're all looking to do, of course, is reduce costs. They may be license costs, that might be support costs, that might be hardware costs if they think they need to make new investments or a hardware refresh. And many times that is operational costs that they're trying to resolve as well. Many times what they want to do with that money, besides just save it, is use it to fund whatever the new platform is that they may be moving to or investing in. And then if they are actually maintaining or deprecating that platform, they want to be able to freeze or reduce the costs of the existing platform over time. What many of our customers find is that they've got application A, they're trying to move to application B, they start spending more and more money on application B, but the vendor for application A won't give them any savings. And so they actually wind up spending more money on BI by bringing in this second platform than they had been spending before. And with managed services, we can help to freeze those costs or reduce those costs over time for you. Many times people want to use those funds to focus on innovation. Part of that is resources, so freeing up key staff to get out of operational roles and into innovative development kinds of roles. investing in things like artificial intelligence and machine learning, and helping with cloud migration. And of course, along the way, they want to ensure the quality of their existing application, because that's what they run their business on. They may still be wanting to develop new content. They want to make sure that they get access to the right resources for as long as they need them and just as long as they need them and when they need them. And of course, along the way, they want to make sure that that application stays current with patches and upgrades. So we'll talk about how managed services helps us get there. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dave, who can talk to us about managed services itself.
Thank you, John. I apologize up front for my voice. It is allergy season, so if I break up a little bit, I apologize. So why managed services? What is managed services? Really, it's going to a vendor partner and getting rid of the operational support of a specific application. Maybe you want to get out of the application support business, or maybe you want to utilize your resources in a much better fashion, something that's more appropriate for the business. It's also service level driven engagement. So there's specific service levels that we set up, and those are the items that we work to in how we support the model. The next thing is it's a portal, a ticketing portal that we have where you can go and open incidents and service requests for resolution. It's that one-stop shop, if you will. What we do is we bring a monthly or an annual cost, right? That's in most cases a savings over traditional support. It's an alternative to hiring and backfilling of resources. It also gives you the capability to get a larger pool of knowledgeable resources and the reach back that we have into the greater Ironside, rather than one or two generalists that you may have on your staff. So what are some benefits? First off, from Ironside's perspective, we don't care where the application is. It can be on-prem, it can be in the cloud, it can be in a hosted data center. In fact, we even host applications for people. What we strive to do is to just keep that application up, operating at its best capability. And some of the benefits there are, there's nothing to do for you. You don't have to worry about staffing resources or requirements there. Let us know what the issue is, and we'll go work it, and we'll do it in a timely fashion. It's definitely a low cost point than staffing, much lower cost point. It gives you predictable monthly costs. So you know what that budget's going to be for the year. You can put that into your budget and you can move forward. There's no flexing up or down in that case. It's solid. We set up the SLAs, we work to them, and we know what's covered. In most cases, there's no transition costs. We work to transition the support of those services over to us. We will get into that in just a second, and I'll show you what we do. We have a process that we follow. And then one of the biggest things, one of the benefits is no attrition, no concerns around that at all. So vacation, sick days, PTO, et cetera, is all covered. You don't have to worry about making sure of that. And another big benefit is, in a lot of cases, customers are worried because they're way behind in software support levels. And in our case, we can bundle in annual platform upgrades. We can bundle in upgrades within the length of a contract one time, and it does keep you up at certain levels so that you're not behind and not on unsupported software. So how do we measure success? That application has to be up and running and just performing to the best for all the end users, and those end users are getting what they need. So the dashboards, the worksheets, the workbooks, and the reports are all there, and they can run the business and move forward. Resolving issues in a timely fashion, that's something that we're very focused on. Clear communication and insight. Our ticketing system is our system of record. We do everything through that. The customers put their tickets in through a portal, and all of our communications goes back out through that portal and is captured in the ticketing system so that we can have a record of that. And everything goes through email back and forth to the customer. Communication is a huge piece of making sure you get through an incident. One of the things is sharing and leveraging our proven practices. We've experienced and worked through many things. We have a large knowledge base that we work from that helps us to be able to resolve things quicker, because we can go and quickly look at our knowledge base and understand what's going on. Maintaining security in regards to users and groups, and getting the right resource when it's needed. So that's a really important one. But what does this do for you? One of the biggest successes is you're able to take your technical resources that you have on staff, and you're able to redeploy them into more important and more business-focused issues. So here's our approach, as I talked about a little bit before. At the top, you'll see we go into a discovery phase or baseline phase. We'll do our kickoff. Then we get into the managed support services that we provide. We have proactive services as well. And in turn, we have a monthly status meeting with our customers. In that monthly status meeting, we will talk to the open issues, the issues that have been closed, make sure that everything's tied up on both ends there, that everybody's happy with what we did. We'll talk to the latest releases of the application, information around the application. We'll also talk to topics that the customer is interested in. We will bring value in data science and other activities that we are working on currently in Ironside. So if you go to discovery, the baseline phase, it's really about just, you know, sitting there and figuring out what the metrics are, gather the data that we need, do some interviews if needed. You know, we want to make sure that we understand what the application is, the number of servers, you know, whether you're using SSL or other items there that you know, load balancers that we could make sure we understand everything. And then if there's any challenges, are there current issues that we need to go look at as we take over? And then we'll go staff our team, we'll develop our transition plan, and we'll meet along the way to make sure we transition that activity over, and we'll pick up the services. Once we get there, it's the normal, you know, administration stuff, troubleshooting issues, configurations, escalations. We use our knowledge base in cases where we have the deeper reach back, as I said, to our other consultants, dealing with data access security, making sure that everything is set and running well. As well, then you can get into, as I said, upgrades and things of that effect. The one thing that we do look at a lot is we try and do log reviews every month, and that is where we go out and pull the logs weekly to monthly. We look at those logs, we look for any patterns or issues, concerns, and what we'll do is we'll come up with recommendations, we'll pull them forward into our monthly meetings and talk through them with the customer, and then we'll have corrective actions that we'll propose. We don't do anything until we have customer agreement on that, and then get the right window to execute on those things. And then our proactive support that we talked about as well is just you're coming forward with recommendations, coming forward with performance tuning. We'd like to package health checks into that, where we go and do a health check on your application and talk about how it's functioning, how it's configured, how it's running, how it's performing, what reports you're using, how often they're used, how many people look at them, or what reports are out there that don't get used at all, so that we can do a cleanup of the system as well and make it run to its optimal level. So in the end, that's our process. That's what ends up giving us A+ service to our customers. And then you may ask, what is it that we offer from Ironside's perspective? We go into migrations and upgrades, so we can do platform migrations, whether that's to the cloud, whether that's to new servers in the data center. We do the upgrades of the platform itself, and we get into interim fixes, fixed packs, patches, etc. And then, as I said, the health checks and the report cards. Report card is more of a smaller version of the health check that we'll do every 6 months, and that's opposite of the health check. Platform managed services, we manage the platform. It's all about the environment being up and running, right? And that's us taking it, continuing, and making sure that things go along. Application support is diving deeper into whether you want us to look at fixing report issues, metadata model issues, etc. And then there's also a new thing that we're offering through our BI group, which is some flexible development hours. We create buckets of hours that are used when they're needed. They're not billed at a certain point. We do have customers that take on X number of hours per year. We bill them up front for that at a discounted rate, and they use those or they lose those. But in a lot of cases, we have buckets of flexible development hours. We do have restrictions on that around you have to schedule within a couple of weeks just so that we can schedule resources appropriately. And the big thing that we've really seen growth in right now is our analytics, our Ironside Analytics Service, or IAS as we call it. And that's where Ironside has come up with a capability to bundle licensing and managed services together in an offering. And what that's been bringing is significant cost savings to customers. Our customers have seen, a great value in that, in the fact that they can save money, they can allocate that money to do other things, or they can drive that money right to the bottom line. currently right now with COVID and everything else, we've seen a lot of customers that are just struggling through things, and they want to try and take the money they have in their budgets and use it to do the best possible pieces that they can. What that brings as well is the platform, the application support, and then we get into more of the a la carte type options. We can add upgrades, the flexible development we talked about, the health checks, et cetera, and we always bring along our proactive problem management into that. From my perspective, the different products that we support, you can see them. I'm not going to talk to all of them. It's, Cognos, Tableau, DataStage, Power BI, and we do support in the different cloud environments, AWS, Azure, and IBM. So let's just talk real quickly about a few of our customers, or a couple of them right now, and what they've been looking to do. And in the first case, we had a customer that was wanting to move to the cloud. So they were looking to lower their overall cost of their BI enterprise application. They wanted to be able to redirect their resources and use them for this business critical activity. And they wanted to get out of their data center. They didn't want to be in the data center business anymore. They're moving piece by piece into the cloud. It came to their BI application, and they wanted to roll along and get that going. So what we did was we brought this IaaS, or the analytics service that we had, we bundled the licensing and the managed services, and what that gave them was it gave them a large cost savings. It gave them the capability to be able to move those resources into the planning and the execution of this. We as well, then they hired us to work on, and we created a well-architected AWS cloud environment for them. We did a proof of concept, and then eventually we did the migration of Cognos to the cloud. They did all their data sources and et cetera, but it actually went very, very well. And they ended up moving to the cloud, very, very successful, very happy. And we now still support them in the cloud environment. They enjoyed our services so much and felt that they got value from it that we now are supporting their licensing and services up in the cloud. Second journey that we had was one customer was done with their BI application, and they had made a decision to move to something else. So that was the journey. They're looking to reduce cost as well to help fund this. They wanted to free up resources to do it. They want to transition their reporting and development to this new platform and not invest anything else into the current environment. So as well on this one, we were able to use the IaaS to save them some money and help them transition. We did use Ironside's cloud path. We proposed that. That is a intellectual property within Ironside that helps assess the report migrations and assist in that. And that, from what they had planned and looked at their budgeting, saved them a significant amount of dollars in their migration overall. And in the end, we were able to bundle up our BI resources for planning and migration. Those resources and that expertise were there. We worked the project with them, and they are now over on their new platform and working. John, did you want to touch on the next one?
Sure. This is another interesting one. We have a customer who their BI budget had been decreasing, and yet their users were demanding, more content and refreshed content and more data and things like that. And really, they were spending all of their money just trying to keep the lights on in that particular application. What they realized is that they needed a variety of different skills, from design skills to data skills to front-end development skills. And they didn't need a lot of it, but they needed all of it. And so they were trying to get out of operational support so that they could focus on doing that kind of work. And we really came in and did two things for them. The first thing was we brought in that managed services for Cognos in this case, so that we could free up their operational resources, and they could get repurposed towards moving towards more value-added things in Cognos. We did proactive problem management to make sure that we could stay ahead of any possible issue that they might have had. But we also supplied them a pool of sort of on-demand resources that they could just use on a very partial basis to do whatever bit of work needed to get done, without them having to go off and get into a big consulting arrangement or something like that. And so at the end of the day, they were able to redirect those funds. They were able to really refresh an application that had gotten a bit stale, make their users a lot happier, and do all of that at lower cost than what they had been doing before. So talk about, to sort of wrap this up here with some key takeaways. So we've been talking about how managed services is more than just putting something in a box, right? It's allowing you to reduce costs. It's allowing you to refocus on innovation and what's next. Ensure that your current application is of quality and runs smoothly. They're a great tool for managing resources, for migrations, for cloud adoption, and most importantly, for keeping your users happy. So hopefully that message has resonated with all of you today. With that, we can open it up to some questions. All right, let's look in there. First question that we have out here is, my company is like the Wild West of BI tools. How can managed services help me? That's a good question. We see lots of, we've never been in a customer who didn't have more than, a handful of BI tools. And I think this is really the point, that as customers are trying to manage all of that complexity and that variety, they wind up spending all of their time keeping the lights on and doing operational support. And in many cases, half of those tools or many of those tools are not tools that they're making large investments in, and a few of them are ones that they are. And so if you can bring managed services, particularly to those ones that aren't getting a lot of development attention, and take all of that operational cost or most of that operational cost away, so that it can get redirected to the innovation in the target platforms that you're moving to, it's just a great use of managed services. So hopefully that answered that question for you. Okay, you mentioned predictable monthly cost. How do you address the variability in my cloud consumption costs? Dave, you want me to answer this one?
Yeah, go ahead, John. I mean, there's specifics that we do when we're supporting cloud, where we set up alerts to make sure that if anything changes from a consumption perspective, that we're aware of that immediately, so that we can notify the customer just in case somebody's adding resources or adding whatever into the environment. But yeah, please do, John, add in there.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I think we find that particularly in the types of applications that typically find their way to managed services, the cloud consumption cost is pretty predictable and pretty consistent. But what can really happen is just when someone goes a little bit rogue, right? And you don't want to find that out when you get your AWS bill at the end of the month. So as Dave said, part of the value of managed services is we're paying attention to that. And if we see something go, we can stop it quickly before that gets to sort of be a runaway train for you. Okay, third one, I think this one's for you, Dave. The idea of a flexible pool of skilled resources sounds great. How does this really work?
Sure. So we have the reach back into our BI organization, where we have some outstanding consultants. And it is very hard to do the 1 and 2 hour incidents or ideas or problems or whatever you need, right? Whatever it might be, a report that needs to be updated or so forth. So what we do in this is we set up a routine where you would open a ticket. We put a specific category in there that you put in as much information as possible. And we ask that things are done in 4-hour increments. And we also ask for a couple of week lead time so that we can schedule those resources, because partial resources are much harder to schedule. Our resources will get back to you. We'll acknowledge the ticket right away. We will get back to you with a time frame and update that through the ticketing system. And if there's questions, we'll come back with any questions in regards to it. And then once we get the date, we send that to you. And on that date, we do the activities, we finish it up, and we have happy customers.
Great. And one other question just came in. Does my cost stay consistent over time, or should I expect it to increase, and how much? I'll tackle that one. So it really depends upon what we're doing. Actually, our goal is to help you to decrease the cost over the term, right? So it really comes down to how long you're going to be on the managed services, and and many of our customers have multi-year managed services agreements with us that have either very, very minor cost increases or it's flat. And many of our customers who are coming off of the platform actually have the ability to decrease that cost year over year. And so we regularly do 1 year, 2 year, 3 year kinds of arrangements with folks. And depending upon what fits best for you and what your business case is and what your usage is going to be, we can really help to ratchet down the cost increases that you're probably seeing from some of the software vendors that you're using, who are giving you 7-10% plus increases in just support costs from a year-to-year basis. Okay, I don't see any more questions out here. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank Dave for his great content. We'll give you a few minutes back on your calendar. And thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Have a great day.
Yep. Thank you very much, everyone.